Hello, my name is Pokocky. I'm an HR consultant and life and success mindset coach. Welcome to the Livefully podcast, where we touch on everything in regards to growth, evolution, personal development, as well as some story times and interviews to keep it interesting. My hope is to bring you value and inspire you, entertain you, in order for you to live a more fulfilled life starting now. Thank you for tuning in, and let's get started. Hello, my loves. We are in my spare bedroom today. We're filming from wherever we can. We got a little short window because the baby is sleeping right beside. He might wake up. It's his world. He's the boss. He decides if he wakes up, we gotta stop, we gotta go. So we're gonna be really effective, but I want to talk about something that is so important to me, and that is one of the first lessons that I understood in personal development that really changed my life, because it's gonna change your life. It's how you can change your life. It's by understanding that you create the story of your life. You have power over the story of your life. The book of your life, you have full power of where it's going. You are not the victim of your life. We talked about this in personal responsibility. We also talked about this in the identity shifting. We also hear my partner coughing. Hopefully we don't pick up on the mic because he is sick. That's his reality. As I was saying, you create your life story. You absolutely have control over your story. And when I understood that for myself, it was kind of an aha moment and a pivotal moment for me in taking power of my life, in changing my life for the life I wanted. And I can definitely say that I'm living a life that I could only have dreamed of when I understood this at like 19 years old, I would say. So let me tell you a little bit about that story. When we get to my second point, I'm going to give you 3 points today to help you in creating your life, into creating the story of your life that you want for yourself, into living the story of your life that you want. And I also want you to understand that you're always going to be changing your story. You're always going to be rewriting your book, because it's a constant thing. It's every day you're changing. Every day you're deciding that you want a different life for yourself, and you're recreating the story. You're taking ownership of your story, and you're shifting that whichever direction that you want for whatever point of your life that you are in. So for example, right now I have a newborn and I have a toddler, and there's work stuff going on. There's a business, there's my partner, there's family, there's friends, all of these things. There's my home, all of these roles and these hats that I play. I can write a different story for them depending on wherever I am in my life. So there's moments in my life and periods in my life where I want to write a certain story for how I want to show up business wise. And right now, let's say I'm in more of a motherhood and I want to write a different story for that, and I want to show up in different ways. So I'm always sitting down and thinking about, how am I showing up? What's the story in my life? How can I impact that? And this is really empowering, because you have to understand that the things that you're telling yourself about yourself, such as phrases like, I'm not organized, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not successful, I don't make a lot of money, all these stories that you're telling yourself that are negative, you have a choice to choose again and to choose different narratives and different stories. And just by understanding that and taking ownership of that and choosing, you'll be able to shift into new stories. Okay, so let's get into it, guys. So first of all, number one, I want you to understand and to acknowledge and to agree that you are telling yourself a story about your life, that there is a story of your life, and that you do have power over it, that you do have impact, and you can definitely choose the storyline and where you are going. So let me help you out by giving you a couple of examples to help you understand this concept, and for it to integrate, and for you to acknowledge that and to integrate it so that you believe it, so that you can actually act upon it. Because it's all nice if you're hearing me say this and my story and you'll think, oh, that's her, she can do that, but I can't. That's a story you're telling yourself. You definitely can. Understanding and acknowledging that you do have a story, that you have a story for your life, and that there is a story going on. First of all, I want you to understand that there are a lot of storylines going on in your head, that some come from you, some come from programming. And if you don't really think that you have an impact on your story in your life, obviously your whole life story probably comes from conditioning. What I mean by that is societal conditioning, environmental, family, upbringing, friends, people around you, just where the context that you're in, so the country you're in, your religious surroundings and beliefs that people around you, all of that is going to have conditioned you and given you kind of like a story or a storyline for your life. And once you understand that and you see all this conditioning, you can decide for yourself if that is a condition you want for yourself, and you will be able to take power over that. But your story is maybe sometimes formed by all these things around you that have conditioned you and have created kind of a storyline for your life, for wherever you're at and where you're living. And you can just look at that in the sense that if you grow up in a certain country versus another, you'll have very different beliefs about what you should be doing at a certain age. Should you be going to school or should you not? Should you be going to this type of school or this type of school. Like for me, for example, I grew up in the outside of the city, so not in the city, and people usually don't necessarily come to the big city. They go and do kind of like what are they called, like DEPs, and they go into like nursing and all these things. But for myself, I had seen on movies when I was younger that people were going to Harvard and Stanford and all these things, and I had written like all my calendars and all my little vision boards that I used to make when I was younger, small city girl, big city dreams, and I knew I wanted to go to a big city. So I created that storyline for myself, and I knew that that would happen at some point, in a sense. That was an opening for me. If you want to create new stories, you need to be exposing yourself to things that you want, and you need to be open to all different storylines, and to be really open that there are different stories for everybody's life. Everybody has a story about their lives. You got to be open. You can do some research. You can read people's biographies. Just become open to like all these different ways of living that actually exist, and know that there are so many different ways as there are different fingerprints, and that you can create that storyline for your life as well. So I want you to understand first, and I want you to believe that there is little voices in your head. And when I say that, it's like sounds crazy, but I say this a lot because the voices in your head, if you're able to observe them, there is a deeper you. There is like your soul that is listening to those voices talk, and you can choose to believe them or not. And oftentimes, if we can't, first of all, believe that, we cannot create separation, but we want to create separation from these voices, and just a little bit of distance, so you can look at it from afar and you can decide which ones you want to follow and which ones you don't. So even for me to this day, sometimes I go into negative spirals. We all have those thought patterns that go negative, and I create space for myself to try to detach from them as much as possible, because it's easy to get in there, and oftentimes emotions are generated from the thoughts, and you start feeling all these things and you think that the thoughts are justified, but there are the voices in your head that are there. Either they're defense mechanism for your childhood to protect you, they're there from people having kind of like ingrained that in you, or society having ingrained certain thoughts in you, and you need to create distance for yourself to be able to step back a little and see the story from afar, and be able to know that you have power over it, and you can rewrite it. You can choose to believe or choose not to believe the own voices in your head. So if you agree with me that you do have an awareness that understands and listens to all this chatter in your head, you can agree with me that there is like a soul inside of you, or whatever you want to call it, like your highest self. I like calling it that. There is your highest self that can listen to all of this and decide what it wants, and pick and choose and create something else for itself, for its life, if you want. I'm calling us all its whatever. So I want you to understand and acknowledge that you have a story running in your head, and you have a lot of storylines, a lot of characters, a lot of beliefs, and you can choose to erase some of them. You can choose to change some of them. So let's go to point number 2, is get so excited about this. How amazing is it? When I understood this, I was like, oh my God, this gives you so much power. It's like the personal responsibility podcast we spoke about. Take your power back. This gives you so much power, so much accountability, and whatever happens, you know that you can have an impact, you can have a say, you can decide whatever or how it's going to impact your story and how it's going to go on from here in your life. So really take ownership and be excited about that, and be so happy that you understand that, and that you kind of can, whichever circumstance you find yourself in, you have some power and you have some impact, and you have some free will of deciding how this is going to affect you. How are you going to perceive this? Even if it's a horrible situation, you can always perceive it in a way that's with gratitude, with love. Like there's always a way to see with a lens of love, and I want you to choose that for yourself, and I want you to own that and know that you can definitely do that for yourself, and just always choose the perception that you want. You can write your story. You can choose your perceptions. You can choose your reactions. You can choose when you're not aligned with a reaction and you want to shift it to something else. So get excited about that. How amazing is that? So let me tell you a little story about when I understood and I was so excited about my story and how much impact I had on it, and that I can write the story that I want. I don't need to be following everybody else's. And this I realized when I was in college. I was a really good student in high school. I've always loved school. Absolutely loved school. Giving me homework was like giving me a gift. I loved learning. I'm someone who's curious. I just loved school. And when I understood, so in high school I was doing really well, and they were suggesting me like, hey, apply to this program in CEGEP. It's an honors program, you'll love it. I didn't even look into what the program was. I'm like, okay, fine, honors, I'm gonna do that, whatever, I'll love it. And I cut to getting to college, absolutely hated it. I was so miserable, so unhappy. I would cry all the time. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand the material we were going over. It was overwhelming. It wasn't even aligned with anything that interests me at all, except when I was doing psychology classes, which I feel like I wasn't doing at first. But anyways, it was a program that was completely misaligned with me, and I tried to fit in that box, and I was like, but I'm supposed to be here. I had honors. I should be in this honor program. I completely hated it. And this is when I started to realize, like, I'm in this direction because someone told me to do this, but I didn't even choose. I didn't even have, like, I just did it. Like, I didn't question it. I didn't take ownership of, like, what am I going to study? I didn't even have any, like, thinking about that. I was just like, I'm following what everyone's telling me. Now it's time to apply. Let's apply. Let's have fun and apply for whatever people are telling me. Like, I wasn't fully owning it. And when I realized, like, why am I in this program? I'm so upset. I'm going to see my teachers. I'm crying all the time. I started having panic attacks for the first time in my life because I was overwhelmed. I couldn't keep up with everything that was going on because it wasn't aligned with me. It was not making me, like, I was not having fun doing it. So I didn't want to do it. So I was resisting it. I wasn't waking up. My roommates were trying to help me wake up with my 5 alarms and 25 calls and knocks on my door. And I would just sleep through classes, exams. Like, it was something else. So it was really, really enlightening for me to understand, hey, like, this storyline that I'm following and that I'm super unhappy and that I'm literally like a zombie going through, like, I don't need to be doing this. I don't need to follow this path. Who even said that? Like, my parents were not the type to be like, do this, do that. Like, my dad was the only one in his family going to university who had went to university. I think the first one in my mom's side of the family. Like, I was just following a new path, but it was the path that my teachers had told me. It was the path that I kind of thought I needed to follow, and I didn't really know what I was doing, and I didn't take ownership. When I did, and I understood, and I started realizing, hey, I can discover what I like, I can go into what I like, and slowly taking ownership of that, I got super excited. It was scary at first, like, to, like, go against what I thought I should be doing, and, like, oh, like, this is honors, so I should be proud and be there, and now I'm going to go to this program which is not honors, and all these, like, judgments that I was telling myself, but I was choosing to not believe them, to listen and trust my gut, and to start listening to my gut and my highest self and my soul, and to go into the direction that I wanted. And this is where I started to take ownership. I started to do the things that I wanted. I started applying for jobs that I want. I started to realize I don't need to be working. At that time, I was working at a cinema because my job in high school was to work at a cinema for 5 years. Where I come from, a little town I come from, he transferred me to his friend in the city. I hated that job so much. I was bullied. I had never experienced bullying because my school was really, really small, and it was so miserable. And I realized, like, why am I here? I don't need to be here. Like, this makes me so unhappy. It makes me be somebody I'm not. I don't need to be here. I can choose something else. I can rewrite my story for myself. And I have power, and I can redirect my life. And certain times my decisions felt really wrong, and I felt like I was in the dark and it would not work out, but I trusted my gut. I trusted that I was just going to listen to what felt good, even if it looked really wrong. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is crazy. I followed it, and to this day now I can say I can't believe I did. I'm so excited. I'm living the life of my dreams, and I am always rewriting my story, making sure that it gets better and better and better. Okay, so get excited and have fun with it. You do not need to follow what society says, what these people say, what your parents say, what your family say, what your religions say. Really choose and take ownership of writing your story and your life, and have fun with it. Okay, step number 3 is to take your power back. So this is, like, we talked a lot about in personal responsibility. I want you to take your power back, and I'm going to give you examples and concrete habits to start using to be able to rewrite your story and how to actually do it. Okay, so first of all, like I told you in the beginning, I want you to get open. I want you to research. I want you to look at people on Pinterest. I want you to look at people on YouTube. I want you to watch documentaries, biographies. I want you to get curious. If you're a woman, I want you to look at, like, femininity videos. I want you to look into different types of feminine energy and what you want to be. I want you to look at the masculine feminine energy as well, because that's really, really interesting, and to define where you stand, because our society is so masculine and driven by masculine performance and rituals and all that and routines. So I want you to look into the feminine side of it and see, what does that mean for me? Where do I stand in society? How do I want to show up in society as a feminine woman if I want to be a feminine woman? So I want you to look into that, and I want you to start noticing your story. So I want you to write down, what is your story? Who are you? What are you saying to people? What are you, when you think, like, who is Hope? Who is whoever, insert your name here. Who am I? I want you to write down, who am I? What am I attaching? What are the labels that I have? And then to analyze, do I want these labels? Do I not? What do I want to switch them out to? I want you to look at your values. I want you to look at, are your values your values, or are they somebody else's? Do you even have values? Are you even, like, discovering who you are and what you want and what your core values are. You can decide them for yourself. Like, I didn't have values before. I wasn't like, maybe I had them from, I guess, my family and society, but I didn't have like clear values. And I sat down at some point in my 20s and I was like, these are my values right now. This is what's important to me right now. They switch all the time. Right now, family is super dominant in my values, and having fun and being joyful and all these things are really, really important to me, because I want to create this beautiful space for my family, for my businesses, for my relationship to thrive. So you can definitely decide that. I want you to get clear. Like I said, I want you to start really get clear on your story. What is the story that's happening? What are the voices saying in your head? Start writing down things that you like are saying to yourself and that you didn't maybe realize, and that you want to scratch out and you want to delete and you don't want anymore. Okay, so like start understanding and noticing your story. I want you to choose again. I want you to choose again. So I want you to choose that you can choose again. So every time a thought comes in that is unpleasant, that is causing negative emotions, use the emotion to identify which thought made you feel bad and decide to choose again. So take the thought, write it down, and write another better thought for it. Let's say you're anxious about looking at your bank account. Write down, I'm anxious to look at my bank account. It gives me stress. I don't want to look at it. And then choose a new thought. When I look at my bank account, I'm empowered. I am excited to look at my bank account. There is abundance. Will always be money coming in. Something like that. I want you to journal as well as your highest self. This is another exercise that you're going to love. I want you to journal as if it's already happening. Journal as your highest self, your dream self. I want you to really take all the research you did, all the noticing of your story, all the research of the things that inspire you and the things that you'd like, the things that you pinned on Pinterest, your vision board, whatever it is. I want you to use that and to really write as if you just had a day, or you just had a date, or you just had a business success story that happened. And I want you to write it as if it has happened. Write it as if you're telling someone about it, or you're journaling about it. Like, this just happened today. I can't believe it. How amazing. And you can do that every single day to get you excited for your day. You can write about the day that's going to be, what's going to happen today. Write as if it already happened. So this is kind of like journaling as future rehearsing. You can also do this in meditation and visualization. So meditation is just amazing. It's going to help you really align and get centered and like allow space for this. But you can also do visualization, hypnosis, and future rehearsing, where you're in your meditation taking a moment to future rehearse, to really step into that identity that you want for yourself, to really step into the highest self and to the vision of your life that you're wanting for yourself and the story you want to create for yourself. So I want you to take time for that in meditation. I want you to use all these exercises for yourself. I want you to get super inspired and to really take ownership of your story and to start writing your own story. I'm so excited to hear your comments on this episode. I think it's going to be a great one. Super useful for you guys to write your story and to really create the life of your dreams. Thank you so much for listening. This was a short one because the baby's crying. I gotta go, but I was so excited to chat with you guys, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next. Bye.